he should actually put Safawi on the wing. That's his best role. You don't try to make him into something that he's really not. And since in that performance he's showing that glimpse that what he used to be at his peak, at the peak of his powers at Johor, I think I hope Pau Marti don't waste Safawi's momentum in this ASEAN Cup. India won, Malaysia won. On paper, it was not the best result for the Harimau Malaya, but the game at Hyderabad was exactly the test they needed ahead of their opening ASEAN Mitsubishi Electric Cup Group A match against Cambodia on 8th of December. And actually this time round, like the previous friendly against Laos, Pau Marti actually set up the same 4-3-3 formation with one defensive midfielder, two new wingers this time supporting Paulo Jose as a lone striker, in which the two new wingers were part of the 5 changes that he made in order to see whether they would be able to respond better. And actually this time what we saw from this Harimau Malaya was a more fluid Harimau Malaya a more fluid Malaysian team when they are going forward, especially when when they were moving the ball on the ground. They were, instead of just doing the one-way traffic of just passing down the flanks, crossing into the box and hoping for the best, this time around they were mixing things up quite a bit, especially when they were making various movements that teased and caused quite a bit of confusion in the Indian defense. And that actually occurred particularly as early as the 18th minute, where a misplaced low clearance by the Indian defense allowed Arif Aiman to seize the ball, run across the goal line, set up an attempt by Sergio Ezekiel Aguero that would require an Indian defender to put his body on the line to deny a potential goal-bound attempt. And there would be a similar attempt from the right that would result in Stuart Wilkins' shot being also denied by an Indian body inside his own area later on in the first half. But still, despite these positives in attack, there were early concerns on the Malaysian defense when they were going forward. Instead, the Blue Tigers, they were actually sending in dangerous crosses, diagonal crosses actually, deep on either flank into the Malaysia box, that caused quite a lot of discomfort to the backline, particularly in the first 45 minutes. And as much as Paulo Jose's opening goal was as fortuitous as Paulo Jose's goal was in the 90th minute, it was actually a reward for that particular period of effort that where Malaysia actually caused some problems in the Indian defense. But unfortunately, that was also as good as Malaysia got in the first half, as subsequently India actually took some control later on. And what also happened subsequently was particularly between the 30th and 40th minute mark in the first half, India were actually taking the initiative. They were dominant in possession even when they were without the ball. Their pressing and positioning, especially inside the Malaysia third, caused a lot of discomfort to the Malaysian players, to the point that they could, because of their positioning of the Blue Tigers, that make it impossible for Malaysia to play the game out from the back, that they were left in that moment to actually resort to playing long balls out, hopeful long balls, just to hope that Paulo Jose was able to do something out of nothing against the odds, which he nearly did once, but it wasn't as much as they could have hoped. And I mean, credit to India for forcing a well-deserved equalizer off a corner, and for the guy to beat the defensive midfielder Noah Lyon to the ball So I think the marking, while it was alright, but it could be better. But I'm not the best expert to say, okay, this is how the players ought to position in the setup. I'm sure Pau Marti and his coaching staff will devise various methods on how to set up defensive positions that would try to force, or rather make the situation as uncomfortable for the attacking players in a set piece situation as much as possible. So, but then that 10 minutes really was a serious test of Malaysia's defensive capabilities. Until the corner, Shihan was actually a decent pair of hands with decent interception. I mean, he was one of the rare few who was able to intercept the diagonal balls that the whole back line was struggling with. Even Dion Cruz at times had to make the last minute interception, and he was, I mean, clearly once again the best defender, the leader on the pitch, the leader in defense. And not only were Malaysia struggling with those crosses, whether it's the diagonal cross or the straightforward crosses from the byline, because another concern for the Malaysian defense in the first half was the pace. It was not just the intensity of the pressing. The pace actually left the back four really scrambling to cover the positions, scrambling to block the crosses out last minute to force corners, from which one of them led to the equalizer. I mean, the Malaysian backline unfortunately is not one of the fastest. While in Southeast Asian level, that is not a problem, and I think they will actually hold out quite comfortably, provided you have the best combination available, even in the absence of a number of key JDT players for the ASEAN Cup. But still, the lack of pace to handle it is a concern that Pau Marti must address. I mean, you can't force them to run faster, but I think it's how to react when maybe they could drop a bit deeper, but that could lead to a potential opening where opposing strikers, opposing forwards may exploit if the gap is too wide between the back four and the midfield. So it was also a similar story for at least the 10 minutes of second half, where India were in control, but they had less of the intensity as they had in the previous 10 minutes that they were dominant late in the first half. Well, which was actually a bit of a sigh of relief, because both teams were still trying to get to the tempo in the second half. But one major highlight in the second half was the performance of substitute Safawi Rasid. He was rather anonymous as the attacking centre midfield behind Paulo Jose in the game against Laos, but he was a live wire when put back to his favourite position as a winger on the right. And in his cameo appearance, he actually showed glimpses of what he used to be when he was a hot shot at Johor Darul Taksim, where his pace caused problems and discomfort for the opposing fullbacks, where he was unafraid to take shots and attempts at goal. I mean, particularly in one moment where I think in the 69th minute, where his acrobatic overhead kick, I mean, a follow-up attempt after Gurpreet Singh had pushed away a Daniel Ting low cross, which looped over to Safawi's path. I mean, had it been more on target, or actually had it gone in, people might have compared it to some of the better acrobatic overhead kick goals that were scored in the earlier decades. I think even maybe some from my country, Singapore, would have also compared it with maybe the Sundram overhead kick in 1993. But still, in that cameo that he was given for over half an hour, Safawi made a tremendous impact and showed that his real starting position should be at the right wing. His running, his clever footwork, his pace, his constant changing of direction. He had the Indian defense in plenty of knots, unsure what they will have to do, particularly in the final 15 minutes where Malaysia actually had the upper hand, even in the midst of all the substitutions. I mean, when Fergus Tierney, they came close. Safawi once again, shooting over. Fergus Tierney had one shot that hit the post that could otherwise have settled the game, and you got more attacking threats from the left, from the right, from the center, even counter attacks, especially when the Indian national team, they were clearly tiring quite a bit. So I think that second half performance was at least in part a slightly better one from the first, where the Malaysian defense looked rather tentative even early on in the second half when those crosses were coming in. But once India stopped putting in those crosses, and once the Harimau Malaya were able to exert control in midfield and initiate more of the proceedings, I think this is when you can see the promising part, where when Harimau Malaya are fluid in attack, they are capable of causing problems. But you must put the people at the right places. You don't put square pegs in round holes. I mean, by having Safawi playing on the wing, that is his natural position. This is where he excels at, and this is where he ought to be playing for Harimau Malaya in the AFF. Then your other positions also. I'm a bit surprised to see Arif Aiman play in the DM role late in the game, but I don't think that is his best or strongest position. And this is, I think, although it shows versatility, which is very important in international competitions, even for our level in the ASEAN Cup, where when you have only this squad of players, who can play a few positions, that could come really handy in the event of injuries, pre-tournament, mid-tournament, and especially suspensions late on. And also particularly if certain players are unavailable because clubs refuse to release the players due to the ASEAN Cup being held outside the FIFA international window. And this is where you will definitely not see the likes of Arif Aiman, Feroz Baharuddin, and possibly Matthew Davis in the upcoming ASEAN Cup, because Johor Darul Takzim will be a bit busy. Selangor might be in a similar position, and possibly for Yongku's club Buriram United, who are active in the AFC Champions League elite like Johor, and also possibly also being involved in the Thai domestic program at the same time. So the questions that Pau Marti has to really answer is, apart from not wanting to put square pegs in round holes in certain positions, and after what I say about Safawi, that he should actually put Safawi on the wing. That's his best role. You don't try to make him into something that he's really not. And since in that performance he's showing that glimpse that what he used to be at the peak of his powers at Johor, I hope Pau Marti don't waste Safawi's momentum in this ASEAN Cup. But now certain important questions do persist, and actually one of the main questions that Pau Marti has to decide is, who's going to be Yongku's centre back if Yongku is available and is allowed to play in the ASEAN Cup by Buriram. The answer for now is a toss-up between Arif Aiman and Dominic Tan. For me, having looked at both of these players in both friendlies, for now actually I do think Dominic Tan could edge it, but Pau Marti could still pick Arif Aiman as the starting centre back. But what if Yongku is suddenly not available because of Buriram's refusal to release him from Thunder Castle? This is where it gets very tricky, because one thing about the Malaysian defense is actually rather fragile. The pace I've mentioned, they can be easily exposed by pacey wingers, pacey forwards, clever strikers. And if Yongku is not there, you can see that fragility as it happened against New Zealand when they conceded 4 goals in the second half after a 0-0 draw of stalemate at the break. So who is there going to lead the line? Could Pau Marti be forced to put Daniel Ting at centre back alongside either Arif Aiman or Dominic Tan? Then who will play at left back instead? These are defensive puzzles that the Spanish coach has to answer. Then how about the wingers? Okay, let's put Safawi at one. Then how about the other flank? Or if you put Safawi on, instead of the right, Safawi, even if he's not on the right, but on the left, then who is going to play on the right? And already this is quite a bit of toss up. Safawi Rasid, today he did alright, but he has not impressed to say that he deserves to be the starting 11. Shafiq Ahmad, he did not really feature prominently against Laos, so again, the form that really matters. Who is he going to put? How about the substitute, Fazrul Amir? He did alright, but is he that ready to be thrown into the deep end? Then your defensive midfielder, you got, Noah Lane. But what if Noah Lane and even Arif Aiman, they were not released from Selangor? Shamir Kuti Abbas, he is the natural stand-in for that. But what if Shamir Kuti got injured? Touch wood. It is an unfortunate case. Again, who can he rely to put in that system that he has already set up for Harimau Malaya since he took over from Kim Panggon? That has delivered decent results in the build-up, but results don't mean anything if Harimau Malaya cannot perform under him in the AFF. Because answering these puzzles at the back, on the wing, and perhaps even in defensive midfield could be key on Harimau Malaya either winning or facing humiliation in the two critical games. The first one is their opening game against Cambodia away. Because Cambodia, they are still improving fast. They have already naturalized 2 Japanese midfielders, and their current generation of locals, they have improved vastly from their predecessors, and they are always more than a match. And especially looking at the closeness of the recent encounters between Malaysia and Cambodia, getting these answers right will be critical. Then what could possibly be the do or die encounter at home against Singapore on 20th of December at Bukit Jalil? That they have to pay attention, particularly with Singapore's tendency to push very hard late in the game, as I've seen also earlier the friendly between Singapore and Chinese Taipei, in the same pattern as they had against Myanmar, where they push very hard to score very late goals. And this is something that the Malaysian defense has to learn to be more alert, especially when bodies get tired. It's a test of concentration. If Pau Marti can get these few things right, then Malaysia is actually going to be on course to reach at least the semi-finals of the ASEAN Mitsubishi Cup. And perhaps this game, the 1-1 draw with India away, could be the start of greater things ahead in the biennial Southeast Asian Championships. So now these questions are there. Pau Marti has to solve them, and there's no more time to add in any new players, because these are the players that he has trusted, and now he has to really trust them in the course of the tournament. Give and take 1 or 2 players, especially if Johor may or may not release a few of them. So the answers that Pau Marti gives after the questions he has gotten from this game in India, it could well be the turning point. It could well be the start of a fantastic campaign ahead. It could potentially be a tricky one ahead if the answers provided by 8th of December are not convincing. With that, I'm signing in off for the night. Have a good night.